This next chapter is going to be all about working with layers here in CorelDRAW X4. And layers can be extremely useful, very important part of the creation process here in Draw, especially with those more complex projects you might be working on. I think back to my high school days when my teachers would use an overhead projector at the front of the room. They'd take a see-through acetate slide with an object on it, put it on top of the projector, and we'd see it on the big screen. And then they'd leave that there and put another one on top of it. It too was see-through but had additional objects that started to grow a bigger picture. And then as they folded additional acetate slides one on top of the other, creating this stack of slides, you would eventually see the big picture. Well, you can do something very similar to that here in CorelDRAW by using layers. Now, layers have some advantages. If you're using layers, you can stay organized. For example, you can hide all the layers you're not working on to focus in on an area of your project on your page to work just on that area and not be distracted or confused by what's around it. Another advantage to using layers is if you've got multiple layers and you make changes to content on your page, it's going to refresh or redraw faster if it's on a layer with fewer objects. If you're working on one big layer with every object on that layer, then making a simple change to one of those objects could slow down the redraw process. So save yourself some system resources by using layers as well. You'll see the advantages as we move through this chapter, creating layers. We're going to manipulate those layers, look at layer properties, and even discuss something that will save you a lot of time and effort known as the master layer. If you need objects repeated across multiple pages, create them once on a master layer, and then they will appear on every other page after that. So let's start in this lesson by creating some layers using the file I've already opened here. If you look at the top here, it's called gocertificate1.cdr. If you've got the exercise files and you'd like to follow along, you'll find this one in the Lesson 7 folder. So as I look at this, there are multiple objects here on one page, and I really don't know much about the layers because I can't see them. So the first step is to be able to see our layers in our document. To do that, we need our Object Manager. I look over here to the right in this Hints Docker, and there is a tab called the Object Manager. That happens to be my default. This shows up when I launch CorelDRAW. You may see it as well, and just clicking on the tab will display your layers. If you don't see the Object Manager, go up to your Window menu, down to Dockers, and you'll see it up here. Mine has a check mark indicating it's already open. If yours doesn't, click on Object Manager. Another option is to go to the Tools menu and click on Object Manager from there directly as well. So once it is selected, you can then go to the Object Manager tab to display your layers. Now as I look at this, I'm seeing the defaults. There's a special layer just for creating guides, master guides, and those are guidelines that we can create that will appear on every page in your project. So if I go to Master Guides right now and I click and drag from my ruler down to the edge here and let go, that guide will appear on every new page I create because I created it on the Master Guides layer. With it selected, I'm going to hit my Delete key to remove it. We also have a desktop layer, one for guides just for the current page. There's our default Layer 1 layer, and we've also got one for our grid. And you can see right now it's invisible. You have a Show Hide button for each of these layers, a little eyeball, and you can see when I click on the closed eyelid, it opens up and displays my grid. If I want to hide that, I can close it up. Other icons are for printing. Notice that if I show the grid, it's not going to print and I can't edit it. Those no signs through the printer icon and the pencil icon indicate no printing and no editing. It's locked. Again, I'm going to hide my grid. If I go up to Layer 1, it is visible. I can print it and I can make changes to it. It's unlocked. My guides will never print. My desktop and master guides, they won't print as well. Now, I really can't see the objects on this Layer 1 right here. So if I click on it and then click in the white space down below, you can see it's red, indicating it's the active layer. So whatever I do next will be on this layer. But I don't see the objects. I have to look at my page to see those objects. For example, if I click on the green rectangle, it's selected, but nothing tells me that over here in my Object Manager. That is, unless you go up to this third button at the top, which gives you your Layer Manager view. When we click on that, check it out. My rectangle is showing up here and is highlighted or selected. It's on Layer 1, which expanded automatically. Notice the little minus signs here to allow us to collapse or click the plus sign to expand. I'm going to collapse it just to keep this simple to begin with. So guides, desktop, and grid, you can see, show up on the master page. Anything we do on these layers affects the entire document. So if there's multiple pages and we do something on the desktop or on the guides, we'll see those on every subsequent page. At the top, we've got just page 1 guides and our layer right here, which is selected. So let's say we wanted to get organized here and have some of the background objects like our green rectangle and maybe this yellow rectangle and maybe the dollar signs showing up in the background, because we're going to use those to create additional gift certificates of different denominations. And maybe we want to keep the text all by itself on its own layer to stay organized as well, and just leaving the rest of the objects on their own layer. Well, in that case, we need some new layers. So with layer 1 selected up here, anything in page 1, I can go down to the very bottom of this Docker to create a new layer. Clicking the New Layer button creates a brand new layer. It's highlighted up here. Defaulted name, Layer 1. A little bit different from the number Layer 1. And we see down below, that's our default layer. I'm going to call this one Text. All my text is going to go on this layer. So when I hit Enter, I've got a new layer. Let's create another new layer for our objects. So click on that, type Objects. When I hit Enter, I've got a brand new layer. Now I'm going to collapse my original layer 1 here just to simplify this view. So now I've got my 3 layers as well as my guides up here. I'm going to go down to layer 1, and if I want to rename this background, for example, I could right click and choose rename from here, or I'm just going to deselect this by clicking down below. Click again on a selected layer and it automatically takes you into rename mode where you can type whatever you want. And I'm going to type in background. And when I hit Enter, it's my currently active layer. I've got a plus sign indicating there are objects on this layer. The other layers have no plus signs indicating they're empty layers. So let's expand our background now. It's time to start moving things from one layer to the other. So we've got a text layer. Let's start selecting some text. Well, I can do that from here in my document right on the page. When I do, you can see that's artistic text up here, Arial, bold. And if I wanted to move that to my text layer, I could drag it from here, click and drag. And when I get over text, let go. I've now moved it to the text layer. If I go down below where I've got some additional artistic text, you can see this information down at the bottom. I could also move that up to the next layer just by dragging it from within the previous layer and letting go in the new layer. Now I've moved that as well. Then I've got a group of objects. I've got some artistic text here. When I click on that, that's my $5 in the background. So I'm going to put that up here on my text layer. Working my way down, artistic text. There's green onion dollars. I see it selected over here. Again, I could drag it from here or from here into the new layer. Drag it up there. And just above our artistic text, we want to see the black line. If you go into an existing artistic text layer or object, you'll group them together. So I want to see the black line above to keep it separate. Good, it's in there now. Let's go to some more artistic text down here. You can see I've got over here on the left-hand side an object that I don't even see. Another advantage to using layers. There might be objects you don't even know are there. And that I don't even need. So I'm going to hit my delete key on the keyboard. What about this one? Oh, there's something way out here that is invisible. I'm going to delete it as well. And I have a guess here that if I click on artistic text, there's yet another one I don't need. So hit delete. So if I look down here in my background, I've got a group of objects, I've got some curves, another group, and a rectangle. I've got all my text moved over here to my text layer. So I'm going to minimize my text layer or collapse it by clicking the minus sign. Now it's time to move some objects over to my objects layer. Notice nothing's changing over here really on my page, except that the order is going to be very important. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Right now, though, let's go get some objects here. If I click on this group of objects, that's my logo. I'm going to move that up to the objects layer. And when I let go on objects, it expands to show that group of objects. And you can see that does affect my page here. If I go over to the curve now and click on this, drag it up here underneath objects and let go. I've moved it to its own layer. Here's another curve. These two curves actually need to be moved. So we can click and drag them up and drag them up here. And now we've got everything separated the way we want. Perfect. All right, I can minimize my background, minimize my objects to see what that looks like. Click out here on my page, and it's almost perfect. The only thing I'm seeing that doesn't really suit me is that the object here is overlapping my $5. So the order that we see our layers here is also very important. This is called our stacking order, just like stacking objects one on top of the other. Maybe text should be on top of the objects. So to move a layer, you just click on the layer itself and drag it above objects and let go. You can see that's a much better look. So all of my text is on top of the objects, which is on top of the background. That looks good, just like that. We can also, within a layer, adjust our stacking order the same way. So for example, I've got this curve here and here and here. That's the order. At the bottom, I've got my group of 2 objects. That's at the bottom of the stacking order. So I'm going to minimize that. And I'm going to expand my text because I'm not too keen on how my makes a great gift here seems to be in the background. So if I click on artistic text, that needs to go up, I think. There we go. Make it a little more visible. Artistic text down here. And you can see when I let go, I actually created a new group. So we can take that out of there. We need to see the line if we want to be able to move it out of a group and into its own layer. So let's go back to text and make sure that's happening. Click the plus sign here. There's my artistic text that's in the background. I really should have that down at the bottom, so I'm going to drag it down below artistic text, Arial in green, and let go. And now things are looking just right. I can minimize that. And that looks great. I'll deselect just by clicking anywhere outside my selected object. So there's the end result. Looks the same as what we started, but now we're organized. So let's say we want to just work on the text in this particular page. We could hide the objects in the background to make it a little bit less confusing. Clicking the eyeball here next to objects will hide it. Clicking the eyeball next to the background will hide it. And you can see now I'm just left with my text. And I can see that maybe this isn't perfectly centered. I can move that over a little bit. Using control, I'm just going to move it to the left so it looks like it's better lined up. There's some text in the background. That looks good. And when I'm done, I can minimize my text layer and turn back on my objects and my background. Let's say the background should never be changed. It has to stay that way. Well, we can lock it by clicking the pencil right here. Now it's all locked up, so I can't actually go into the background and start making changes. They're not even selectable here unless I unlock them. Okay, so we're getting into manipulating our layers a little bit now. We're going to continue with that in the next lesson, but you should be feeling comfortable now creating layers and ordering them because stacking order, of course, is very important. So are some of the properties we're going to be looking at in the next lesson.